All right, so we're finally here with the good stuff of data frames. We're going to talk about Boolean indexing. But before that, I do have one or two more functions that I want to talk about with data frames. So the first one is, again, take a look here. What you can do is, if you want a specific column, right, you can do users and then that column. So users, let's say I want, what was our heading names? User ID, age, gender. So let's say I want the genders of all these people. And again, I don't want all of them, so let's do head 10. Using that, I can get the genders of the first 10 people. So looking at this data, again, it's a bit confusing. I mean, you have all these conflicting numbers. What if I just wanted the zip codes? What if I just wanted the gender? To do that, what you can do is, again, users and then in square brackets, whatever column you want, okay? So that's one way to simplify the data. Second thing I want to talk about is multiple columns. So we got gender, but how do we get all the columns that we want, okay? So we have our CSV, we're not trying to rename the columns this time, but we basically just want to see these columns from our data frame. The way we can do this is just specify more columns. It's better if you specify an array and then put the array here, but what you can also do is, just specify it like this, occupation, zip code, okay? And then I just want the head of it, I don't want to print it out all. And it gives me an error saying key error, occupation, comma, zip code. Let me take a look if I spelled it right. Occupation, comma, zip code. All right, so I think the reason why it's giving me this error is because it does want an array. So let me go ahead and first create an array of columns I want. So columns I want, and set this equal to occupation, comma, zip code. And then let's go ahead and put that in my users thing. So users columns, I shouldn't have made it that big actually. And then dot head, and that gives us basically the occupation, comma, zip code. So I was wrong actually up here. I'm sorry about that, guys. I thought it would work if I just specify occupation, comma, zip code there itself. Looks like it takes, if you have multiple objects, it wants an array, not directly putting it there. But now it's returned me the occupation column as well as the zip code column. So this is quite neat for when you have data that has several 20, 30 columns and you only want some specific ones. Like if you have a stock column, and we'll get to that in the near future, if you're parsing for Yahoo stocks and you have all these release, sell, all that random stuff, and you only want maybe the quote and up and down and stuff, that's where you could use these multiple column concept. Okay, so that was multiple columns. Next thing is, our Boolean indexation. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So we talked about it briefly in the series, how we can use this Boolean indexation, that greater than less than stuff. We're gonna talk about it more in this series, okay? So let's say I want the users whose age is greater than 35, okay? So I am a movie developer or a movie producer, and I was looking for critics, except I don't want young critics, I want old critics. So what I can do is I can say users and then whose users.age is greater than 25, print out the head of that. So that gives me an error saying data frame object has no attribute, which is age. Taking a look, what did I call it? I should have called it age actually, yeah. I think it might be capital A. That might be there actually. So bringing this back down, I think capital A might be the issue. Yeah, okay, so basically one key thing that I should have told you guys, and I actually just made a mistake on here, is you can access each column's value from your data frame by specifying your data frame name dot the column name, and it is case sensitive, so if you have a capital column name, then you must specify that. If you're not understanding what I'm saying, basically you want to say users dot whatever column name you have. If I want the zip code of all my users, I'd say something like user dot zip code, but it gives me invalid syntax. Okay, so it's better to specify it like that, but it's gonna give me an error. So I'm gonna make a quick change here, guys. I probably should have done this much earlier, but going back to this user equal to PD stuff, I'm gonna put an underscore in my zip code and an underscore in my user ID. And you're probably wondering, well, why am I doing this? The reason for that is because when I try to call users.zipcode, Python gives me an invalid syntax saying that, hey, why is there a space here? So it's better to keep all your column names one word, otherwise you won't be able to access them later on. Okay, that's another mistake I made. So looks like it's worked. Let's go ahead and try users.zipcode now. Users.zipcode. And that gives me 942 zip codes. Okay, so again, going back to Boolean stuff. Let's say I want male people who are less than 35. Okay, so how would I do that? Here's a challenge for you. Male people who are less than 35. All right, ready, set, go. If you got that, that was fantastic. Let's go ahead and try it out. So again, it's gonna be users, and then you're gonna specify in here those users, or I'm sorry, So those users whose age, what did I say? I think it was less than 40. I'm not sure what I said, but those users whose age is less than 40, and so this is again where those conditional statements come in. You're gonna put and, only one, not two. And those users who are male, right? So you're gonna say, so users age less than 40 and users dot gender, so capital G and capital A over there. That's one thing I forgot. Users age less than 40 and users dot gender who's equal to male. So we're looking for males under 40. And let's just go ahead and get the head of this. I don't want to get too much information. There we go. So our first, third, fourth, eighth, and ninth guy are all male, and they're less than 40. So that's pretty cool. If you want to check them out, that's fine, but I'm joking. Okay, so we got this. Let's go ahead and try one more. Let's do females who are writers. Females who are writers. So again, here's another challenge. We saw how we did this. You saw this. Let's go ahead, replicate this, and give me 5 females who are writers. Okay, so I'm gonna pause the video here. All right, if you manage that, that's fantastic. Otherwise, it's quite simple. It's gonna be the same concept where we're gonna say users.gender this time is equal to female. So we're looking for females, and the second parameter we said was users. Who were writers, right? So we're gonna say and users.occupation is equal to writer. So let's go ahead and get the head of this. We get 5 results. We have female and they're all writers. So hopefully by now you're understanding, hey, Pandas is actually pretty awesome. I mean, we're now editing data, we can modify, we can change, stuff like that. And the whole power that you have with Pandas is huge. So if you actually want to make Python your primary language and stuff, definitely take this further. Right now, this was good stuff. Let's do one more example. So in the past, in these 2 examples at least, we've been using the and. Let's go ahead and do one example with the or. So I want male people or those older than 60. So there's a challenge for you guys. Return me 5 rows which have male people or they have people older than 60. So obviously, I think we're gonna get all males, but let's take a look. So users, we have users dot gender is equal to male. Okay. And then we're gonna say or. So if you guys remember in our conditional statements, we talked about how it's double, so and or actually type it out like this. But in Pandas, it's like this. So just an or statement. Or is this, and is that ampersand sign. And then or you're gonna say, I believe it was users greater than 60. Yeah, people older than 60. So let's go ahead and do that. Users dot age greater than 60. So let's go ahead and try this out. Oh, I should use head for that. I'm sorry. That's too confusing for me. So dot head, and we get 5 results. And as you can see, all of them are less than 60. So the reason I said we're probably gonna get all males is because when you think about it, in our data, going back over here, a lot of them are already males. And to find a female who is greater than 60 or even a male who's greater than 60, is pretty difficult. Looking at the first 20, 30, 40 lines of data, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, I find one 60 person. All right, 61 and retired. That's obvious. But okay, good job, guys. In this lecture, we talked about Boolean parsing or Boolean indexation, and we learned how we can manipulate our data. So that's good. Now we're gonna go ahead and continue this. So we do have a few more functions that I want to talk about. And yeah, so that sounds good, and I'll see you in the next lecture.